A lot of people don't know, but you might share with us, as part of that school choice, there was a lot of other aspects of education funding and other things in that bill. Is that correct?
Well, yes, that bill was comprehensive when it comes to private schools and homeschooling.
Okay.
There was a separate bill on just public education. It was a massive bill when it comes to additional funding. $8.5 billion in new money into our public school system. Part of that, politically, I think, was to try to alleviate some of the concerns of the public schools.
Right.
I mean, they are very, very nervous about something new that, they're not sure how it's going to affect them. I honestly don't think schools that are doing a good job are going to get affected at all. It's the school districts where they're failing the students and failing the parents, where the parents are looking for some alternative for their kids.
Right.
Those are the districts who will suffer some loss of enrollment and therefore loss of funding. Our hope is that will help motivate them to look seriously at what they need to start doing differently.
Yep. Good morning and welcome to Discover Seguin. This edition of Discover Seguin, we're very fortunate to have the State Representative for District 44, which includes Guadalupe and Gonzales County, Alan Schoolcraft. Welcome this morning, Alan.
Thanks, Bruce. Happy to be here.
We're so glad to have you. I've been looking forward to this for a while, mainly because you and I have known each other since we were youngsters, and it's kind of been fun to be not only a friend, but a fellow public servant for a while, and even a neighbor at one point. We lived just a few houses apart at one point in Universal City. So, and besides that, kind of as a full disclosure, you've been a client of ours in the insurance business for many years. So it's been great to have a friendship with you and a relationship, and now to get to interview you in reference to your new position as state rep.
It has been great. I mean, it's fun to think back through all the years and memories we've shared and so forth. So it's great to be here to get to share the time with you.
Thank you. I thought I'd like to kind of reminisce back a few years, just because as time marches on, it's enjoyable for me to think back on the good times of life and especially growing up. I wonder if you might share a little bit with us about your family life in your formative years. I happen to have known your parents, Tom and Barbara, as well as your older brother, Tommy, and younger sister, Terry. And so I wonder if you might reflect a little bit on growing up in the Schoolcraft home, especially the formative years and the influence that Tom and Barbara had on your life.
Sure. Well, my father was a career Air Force, so I was actually born in Canada. A year and a half old, we moved to Tucson, Arizona. Then we moved to Helsinki, Finland. Spent 3 years in Helsinki. And then in 1959, my dad got transferred to Randolph Air Force Base. So we moved to what later became known as Universal City. Back then, it was just unincorporated Bexar County. One of the very first political kind of forming memories for me was that very first primary election. My parents wanted to vote in the Republican primary, and there was no place in that part of the county to vote. And they called the county party, says, "Where do we vote?" And they said, "I'm sorry, there's no place for y'all to vote. And so would you like to conduct the election in your garage?"
Oh, wow.
Well, there was back then, I probably still is, something called the Hatch Act, where military people were not supposed to be engaged in politics. So my dad was a little nervous about that, but he went ahead and they held the primary in our garage. And when the base commander showed up to vote, he figured he was going to be okay.
Okay. That's great.
So politically, just growing up all the time, we talked politics in my house, and it was policy stuff. And so I've always had an interest from that perspective, kind of a policy, what we should be doing, on a big scale. My mother then, I did not even know it. She was selected by TEA to serve on the school board because Texas Education Agency was getting ready to shut down the Church-Cibolo School District. They came in and took over and appointed a new board, and that was around 1963. And she served for 17 years. I never even knew, until I graduated from high school, what she did. But 17 years. Then later, they moved to Guadalupe County. My father ran for and served as a Guadalupe County chairman. So I grew up and saw during my life my parents strictly dedicated to public service. I never heard them once, never saw any indication they were ever doing this other than just for public service. Right. And so that kind of, that's the state of mind I went into the legislature, just what can I do?
And you served the first time, just kind of reflecting, you ended up finishing school there in the Church-Cibolo district, and you went on to college. Where did you go to?
Graduated from University of Texas. Yep. Then after that, I went into the Air Force, did a tour of duty in the Air Force, and then St. Mary's University Law School.
Law school, yeah.
And I opened up a law practice right there on Pat Booker Road. Yep. Practiced for 17 years. I never actually really enjoyed law practice. Yep. I kind of I don't like the conflict. It's, why can't we just all get along? Let's be reasonable here. And that was a little difficult practicing law with that perspective.
Yeah, and that's when we first got to know each other as local business people. I was in the insurance business. You were practicing law there in Universal City. And at the time, as two young entrepreneurs in our early years, we both had this desire to serve, and I decided through some coaxing to run for mayor at a young age, and at the same time, you decided to run for state representative. I think the district was at 119.
Initially, it was 57C.
Okay.
And then there was redistricting, and it became 121.
121, yeah. And that came from Universal City toward San Antonio, that district at the time.
Well, the initial district where I was elected, and remember, I ran as a Republican, but it went from Universal City through Kirby, through East San Antonio, Pecan Valley, all the way down to Atascosa County, and then east, China Grove, that area. It was a very tough district for a Republican.
Yep. And so you and I were actually running for election at the same time. I was a young businessman running for mayor of Universal City, and you were a young person running for state rep. I still remember where the little office was there on Pat Booker and Athenian as you go into Olympia, where your little campaign office was. Yep. We'd give out signs, and that was a fun time. Your mom was real active in your campaign, if I remember right.
She was. Mom was also very active in the Republican Women's Club, and that was back in 1981. Yep. So we didn't have email, we didn't have social media. It was a lot of just grunt work, knocking on doors and sending out mail. Well, I didn't have any money, so these ladies from the Republican Women's Club would come in, set up tables, and they'd have just a manufacturing line of postage stamps and cards, and they'd just be sticking the labels and the stamps on these things by the thousands. So, I mean, they were a secret army. It was amazing, and Mom helped coordinate all that.
That was awesome. And if I remember correctly, you were running in the general election against a multi-term Democrat from the southeast part of San Antonio by the name of Al Brown. He was kind of a legend in southeast San Antonio, and they thought that was the David and Goliath race, you didn't have a chance, and that was kind of a fun time.
It was really fascinating because, yes, he was expected to be the next Speaker of the House, very popular, one of the old-fashioned conservative Democrats, probably more conservative than half the Republicans today. And, he had the money as the incumbent. I had nothing. I was a 27-year-old kid nobody ever heard of. Yep. And so with the help of like the Women's Club and my mother's help, and I went out and I knocked on over 12,000 doors. But, there was no television, no radio, no nothing. And so the people in San Antonio had no idea I was even running.
Right.
And it was a huge surprise to everyone when on election night I wound up winning. Yep. So big upset. But it was pretty exciting times.
That was exciting times, and I remember that in 1980 when I got elected. It was nice for a couple of young local guys to be involved in public service. And I remember I was reflecting as before we started our show, your first time serving. My son and a good friend of mine and good friend of ours, Larry Jones's son, Marty Jones, were both 11 or 12 years old. And when you served the first time, you actually invited them to be page for a day, where they came to the Capitol in their little sport coats and got to deliver things around the Capitol. And I'll never remember the excitement on their face and the pictures we got in the rotunda with you. And it was just an exciting time.
Yeah, it was. And it's fun to get to share that experience with the young kids.
Yeah.
We still do pages up there. Unfortunately, it's almost more ceremonial because of all the computers and so forth. We don't, we use the pages to deliver papers and stuff to the members and the offices, and nobody uses paper anymore. So they get on the floor and they can watch, but it's not really exciting like it used to be.
That was really a fun time, and I know Larry and I both enjoyed having our boys be introduced to the state government in that way. You got into business, you served for many terms. I think, was it 6 terms,
12 years.
6 terms, okay, 12 years, that's right, from early 80 into the 90s. And your first time when you were serving, if I remember correctly, you served on the Education Committee back at that time.
Correct.
And you also served on that committee this time as an elected rep, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got to keep my seniority. So I'm actually number 39 out of 150, so I used my seniority to choose the Public Ed Committee.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Well, I know as we get into this last session, I know that was a big part of this last session, and we can talk a little bit about it. But I was thinking about reflecting on your private sector career in between these 2 times of serving. You've not been practicing law, but you've been involved in the business of lawyering in some way. Explain to us what you developed and what you've been doing in between the 2 times of serving as a state rep.
Sure. When I was practicing, I developed a practice. Well, early on, about 1983, I discovered computers. I bought a computer and actually read the manual and learned how to use it. And a big part of my practice was generating real estate documents. Right. And back then, everybody was using correcting electric typewriters. Then you could record the keystrokes on a cassette tape and have it spit it out. And I thought, there's got to be a better way. I got this computer, started reading the manual, and found something called mail merge. And I thought, oh, wow. So I took standard forms, put them into the computer, and started coding logic and merging information in. And that was okay, but it was not really that efficient. So I actually taught myself to program, wrote some software because it didn't exist. So I needed, and it actually was fairly sophisticated, asking questions and based on the questions, generating the completed documents. It worked so well that I thought, man, this might be my escape from practicing law. Right. And so as I stayed practicing law, tried to build this software business. I would literally I'd meet with a client, and then in between clients, I'd answer a tech support question and so forth. But eventually it built up into being a pretty good-sized company. I quit practicing law, sold the company in 2008, retired. I failed at retirement. 2 years later, I started up another company, and it's competing against my old company. I'm still running the company.
Good. That's awesome. Yeah, reflecting back again, we're sorry to do this, but it's kind of a good memory. There in Universal City, we were a little bit of a hub for early on advancing computer. There was a group who with Gary Boyd and Fotorero and Hanks, 3 other local guys that we all knew that were developing software for the insurance business. They called it insurance rating systems, and it was right there in Universal City. And those guys that were working at the base as programmers and at night would write program to rate insurance. And that was the very beginning when they were using
TRS 80s.
Radio Shack, Tandy.
Trash 80s, we called them.
I remember that so well. They'd work at night running programs, and they ended up building a big company programming insurance.
And they were an inspiration for me.
Yeah.
They started probably a couple years before I did, and I saw what they were doing and how they were doing it, visited with them, and that helped me kind of set my business how I wanted to do it. So
Cool.
yeah, they were a big help to me.
That was great.
Yeah.
It just so happened to be in the insurance business, and them being right there in Universal City and developing that, we were known all over the country for their computer systems and rating insurance, because we used to have to do it by hand like you did.
It was documents a big deal.
And so that was kind of cool. Good memory. Yeah, they were good guys and friends of both of ours. Well, you served on the education committee back in the 80s. Was that during the time when the funding for schools was changed somewhat?
Oh yeah. That was a period of tremendous turmoil. There were school districts who challenged the constitutionality of how we funded schools.
Yep.
And we would try one thing, and the courts would overturn it. They'd say, nope, still not constitutional. We would try something else. Nope, unconstitutional. We are in almost perpetual special sessions strictly on school funding. It wasn't settled when I left.
Yep.
After I left, they finally passed what became known as the Robin Hood, where they take money from the wealthier districts, share it with others, and so forth. That kind of settled it.
Right.
But yes, it was a lot of turmoil. I actually became the Republican point man on the school funding issue. Now, we were in the minority back then. I didn't really get my way on what I wanted to do, but I was in the middle of it.
Again, a reflection, I remember that because after having served as mayor of Universal City for 3 terms, I was on the Judson School Board, and during the early 90s is when that changed, and the funding formulas changed, and it really made an impact on some of the districts where funds were taken away and redistributed, and you had to make some adjustments. I know the constitutionality of it and the reason for it, and it was, I think, accurate, but it was a little bit of an adjustment to get to back then. But, well, that's great. Well, this go-round, serving as the rep for Guadalupe and Gonzales Counties, tell us how that came about, because I know that you now live in McQueenie, so you're in this district, but I also know that you hadn't been involved in politics for a while or public service, and so what kind of caused you to consider doing that again?
Yeah, when I left the House in 1993, I had no intention of ever being involved in politics again. I was done. That didn't mean I didn't stay interested in politics, stay interested in government, et cetera, but it was a really, I was set that aside and was ready to move on. Moved to McQueenie in like 2000. And focused on building my new business, and some folks started trying to talk me into running about 10 years ago. Just sort of, people remembered I had served before. I had a reputation of being a strong conservative. That's what they wanted, and I kept saying no. No, I'm not going to do it. I will admit I thought about it. Part of the reason is I enjoy the legislature from a policy perspective.
Right.
I'm actually kind of crazy. I enjoy committee hearings. Yep. I love learning about issues. And so I actually missed that. I'm not by nature a politician, though. That's work for me. But the committee stuff I really enjoy. So policy I enjoy. Anyway, they kept trying to talk me into it, and I kept saying no. And then this last time it came to me, and I said no. And finally they kept talking. I said, I tell you what, let me go home, talk to my wife, and I'll pray on it, and I'll let you know tomorrow. So I called him back the the next morning. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. We talked a bit, and he says, the incumbent is one of the ones that voted to kill school choice. I said, oh, crap. Why'd you tell me that? That was an issue that I had worked on back in the late 80s and 90s. I really believe that it can have a really positive impact on public education and in education. And that's a big issue to me. And that was just like the trigger. I said, okay, we need to make a change. I'll do it. And that's how it happened.
That's tremendous. Yes, over the last 10 to 15 years, my wife taught in public school. We'd been involved in public school, but made the choice to send two of our children to private school. And so we've been real supportive and an advocate for the choice of being able to use private school. Mm-hmm. Still supported public schools, think they're great. But I'm with you. I really feel like the choice is what we really need. So that had become a big issue over the last couple of sessions. It really had.
A huge issue.
Yeah.
It was the driving force in a lot of the primary races last time.
Right. Yeah.
So
then you were able to, because of your seniority, to serve on the education committee and
mm-hmm.
went through that process with hearings and everything this go round.
Yeah, that issue caused us to go through a record-setting committee hearing. It lasted 22 and a half hours. We started at 8 o'clock one morning. Now, we did take a break close to 10 o'clock to go to the floor and vote, and then we went right back into committee, continued in committee through the afternoon, through the evening, through the night, all the way around until 6:30 the next morning. And I was so impressed with my colleagues on that committee. Every single one of us stayed there until the last person who wanted to say something got a chance to be heard. So
that's tremendous. Yeah, it had a lot of input from all sides and had been for several years. But I think, especially in the committee session, being able to let that come out is really important before we finally voted on it. Well, it finally passed, and that's a real, I think, coup for the state to be one of the states that has school choice.
Yeah, there's over 30 states now that have some form of school choice. Now, some are very, very small programs, but states like Florida, it's a very well-established program. Each year it's expanded a little bit because people like it. It's had really positive effect in the state. It's really proved itself. So we're kind of behind some other states. But this bill that we passed was the largest out-of-the-box, startup program ever tried in anywhere in the country. And, there's concern that we did put some limits on it as far as how big we're going to start because of, we don't want it to fail.
Right.
So we don't want to try to start too big, and we get it off the ground, and then work out the kinks, and then let it grow to meet the demand.
It's tremendous.
So
well, a lot of people don't know, but you might share with us, as part of that school choice, there was a lot of other aspects of education funding and other things in that bill. Is that correct?
Well, yes, that bill was comprehensive when it comes to private schools and homeschooling.
Okay.
There was a separate bill on just public education. It was a massive bill when it comes to additional funding. $8.5 billion in new money into our public school system. Part of that, politically, I think, was to try to alleviate some of the concerns of the public schools. Right. I mean, they are very, very nervous about something new that, they're not sure how it's going to affect them. I honestly don't think schools that are doing a good job are going to get affected at all. It's the school districts where they're failing the students and failing the parents, where the parents are looking for some alternative for their kids.
Right.
Those are the districts who will suffer some loss of enrollment and therefore loss of funding. Our hope is that will help motivate them to look seriously at what they need to start doing differently.
Yep.
But the school funding bill was what I really like about it. I think it was very, very smartly done. A lot of the effort was focused on early education, pre-K through third grade, because I think everybody is starting to realize that if the kids don't start out with a good foundation, if they don't know how to read on grade level by third grade, they'll be behind for the rest of their life. So we really, really focused a lot of resources on those early years, and I'm anxious to see what results we get.
That's great. That's great. Well, it is a big part of our state, our communities, our nation, as far as getting the education level where it should be to really give kiddos a chance. Such a big part of their success is how they're educated and how well they do in school. Were there other things that you reflected on, differences or improvements or changes that you noticed between your first time serving and your second time, or how was that experience?
Well, the personality types and the process and the politics of interest groups, that sort of thing, hasn't changed. Now, when I left in 1993, there was no social media.
That's true.
There were no emails. There was not even an internet.
That's right.
So how things work is very different. You know, for example, back then in the 80s, we probably had 3,500 bills filed for us to process in 140 days. This year we had over 11,000 bills. You know, that's what technology will do to make it easier to write up bills. I'm not sure that's an improvement. So the technology is very, very different. Interestingly, the legislature used to be the quintessential good old boys club. Very few ladies in the House and even fewer in the lobby. Now I will guess it's probably 40% of the lobby are ladies, and a pretty significant chunk of the House members are ladies. So, you know, it still runs the same. It's not significant other than, you know, it's just a different culture.
Right.
And I think that's an improvement, actually. So, issues, golly, water was a massive fight back in the 80s and 90s, and it still is. Education. You know, the biggest fight we had this year was on education. Well, that's the biggest fights we had when I was there before. You know, some things just don't change. But it was actually a lot of fun to go there and observe the similarities and the differences.
Yeah, there's not many of us that get to kind of bookend two different eras of serving like that.
They call me a retread.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Well, you've stayed young and active, and I know you enjoy being active. Share with us a little bit about some of the things you personally enjoy doing. I personally know that you've been a cyclist and an airplane pilot and other things. Tell us a little bit about those things that you do kind of in your spare time. Or have done. I'm not sure you still do. But.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I tried and quit pretty quickly. But when I sold my first company and retired, I thought, well, I worked out in gym and got in really good shape. So I'm going to go climb mountains. Well, I went down to Ecuador and, you know, I kept running out of air at about 19,000. So I dropped that as a hobby. I've enjoyed motorcycles since, you know, high school days. So I had a motorcycle. I enjoyed doing touring. I actually got to do a tour in Cuba, Alaska. Toured from all the way up to Prudhoe Bay along the pipeline, Costa Rica. So I've done some really fun motorcycle tours in countries. But I sold my bike about 6 months ago. Just past that phase.
Right.
I have been a pilot since high school. I actually paid for my flying lessons with lawn mowing money. I went through periods of my life where I couldn't afford to fly, so I went 25 years without flying when my kids were born and so forth. We know how that goes. I just sold my airplane. I enjoy flying to go high and go far. I had a plane where my wife and I would fly down to the Dominican Republic, lots of places in the Caribbean. It was a great airplane. Sold it. I'm going to downsize it a little bit because I'm so busy. I don't have time to stay current. And I don't want to kill anybody else, and I want to kill myself. So I'm going to downsize and look for something a little less challenging. But I just love flying. Always have. So that was my passion.
Good. Was there anything else you'd like to share with us? I know your wife Joette, and I know you guys have a lovely home at McQueenie, and from your location there, I've gotten to see what's happened at the McQueenie Dam over the last few years. You get to look out your backyard at it almost.
We don't want to talk about the McQueenie Dam. I was in Gonzales last night talking to them, and they actually had 2 dams break in Gonzales County, and they don't have any funds to repair it. They're all up in arms. It's a mess. I really am enjoying representing these 2 counties, Guadalupe and Gonzales Counties. It's a different experience from representing parts of the suburbs and San Antonio. A lot more rural area.
Right.
It's much more spread out, obviously, but just really, really great folks. And I'm enjoying getting to travel around Gonzales and getting to know them. They've got a lot of history that's fascinating.
They sure do.
That folks don't know
You'll
about.
probably go down to the Come and Take It celebration at some point.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Gonzales is having their 200th birthday, October 2nd.
Okay.
They have a motorcycle rally coming into town in a couple weeks, and they're going to have 60,000 visitors on motorcycles. Not the Hells Angels, but just plain old folks like you and me.
Yeah.
So there's a lot happening in Gonzales, and it's fun to watch them. They're really putting effort into their economic development, and they're making progress. So it's fun to watch and try to help them be part of that.
That's great. Well, my connection to Gonzales and Seguin and Gonzales County and Guadalupe County, as you know, my dad worked for Guadalupe Valley Electric Co-op for his whole career, and so we lived in Gonzales a while, and both of these communities are very similar in the nature of them having some rural area, but some resurgence of industry and things in their communities, and really are great places to live and rear a family and have a business. It's really
it really is. But of course, Guadalupe County is losing a lot of its rural area, and the challenges that we're all facing when it comes to transportation, water, power. I know a lot of city councils and mayors and the county commissioners are pulling out their hair. I hear a lot from them, and we're trying to figure out how to help.
Well, we're glad you're in the legislature and have had the experience and the interest in serving as well as serving well for conservative-minded people in these 2 counties, because you've always rated very high in the conservative ranks of your support of legislative issues and voting, and so we're proud to have you as our state rep. Is there anything else that I overlooked that you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, Bruce, it's been pretty wide-ranging, and I think we're probably about out of time, so I'll just say I appreciate the invitation. It's great getting to visit with you. It's really nice to have an opportunity to share a little bit about me with the people of this area, try to help them get to know me better. And with that, I'll quit talking.
Well, thank you again, Alan. You've been joining us for Discover Seguin and our interview with current state rep of Gonzales and Guadalupe County, District 44, Alan Schoolcraft, and we appreciate him coming in and visiting with us today. Thank you.